Today on the Star Trek Critic, a con man posing as a time traveler arrives on the Enterprise. As usual, 1 point will be taken away for each error, and the narration may not always match what happened on the screen. An asteroid hit Panthara 4 and caused a planet-wide cloud that is blocking sunlight, and instead of comparing it to the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs, they compare it to a nuclear war so they could Earth bash. Along the way, Worf finds a time rip in space, so of course they have to stop and look. Here the first point is lost, since a time traveler would have waited for them at Panthara 4, because if they kept going then there would be no show. Felton says number 1 and 2. Now they are going to look at Mr. Worf's what? That sounds interesting. Riker says the second baseman is odd. The move-over comment is proof the pilot has no social skills concerning space travel. This is Picard politely saying, shoot it out of the sky. Another point lost since Worf should have shot him right when he appeared on the bridge. Picard sings his favorite Who song, then says the left fielder's name is Earth. Rasmussen brags about being from the future. So who out there calls it 1701, and who calls it 1701? 1 point lost for not having security in there with Picard. Now he wants to buy the painting. This is Picard maneuver number 1. The door didn't open, so -1 point. Picard thinks he is full of it, but it looks like Rasmussen is a pretty good flim-flam artist. When Worf wants to know why, it is really Klingon for, let's throw him out the airlock. The next point is lost since they don't work for him. They are trying to save a dying planet and have no time to write silly assignments. Deanna says he is holding something back, but nobody ever listens to the telepath. Deanna is convinced he is the third baseman, and just because he is human doesn't mean he can be trusted. 1 point lost for having his ship in the shuttle bay. They can't scan it, which means it could be a bomb that would destroy the whole ship. 1 point lost for examining his credentials. He might have gotten his time traveler ID off the Vegas Strip. Rasmussen asks Data, do extras always cross when the turbolift's open? Data says yes, it hides that there is only one set of doors on the turbolift. 1 point lost for having fruit on a table in guest quarters. It could be weeks until the room is used, and ships in deep space need to conserve valuable resources like food, which is followed by the next point for a sink full of water. Even 300 years on the future, standing water in a sink in quarters that are usually empty is going to get stale and icky. Data wants to know if he is still alive in the future, but Rasmussen loves to bluff his way through everything. According to the stardate, about 8 hours have passed. They always show extras first in the scene because in reality the actors are super shy. The next point is lost for their plan to help the planet. Drilling through the crust is a terrible idea. They need to get rid of the cloud. You'd think if they traveled hundreds of light years to colonize a planet, they would come up with a better name for a city. The next point is lost since this ship has a crew of 1,000. They could have assigned an entire crew from the lower decks to keep him out of their hair. Look closely, he doesn't move his chair when he sits, and they now use finger watches in the future. Riker wants to know why they have to do these assignments, and why are they due tomorrow? We have a mission to do. He mentions a colleague. Did he have one, or is he bluffing again? Worf is slightly incorrect here, since there were phase pistols. Rasmussen talks about how the Klingon is a passionate warrior, but I think Worf just wants him to leave. Another point lost for him in engineering. They should call security and have him escorted out right then. Geordi says, you're bothering me. You are as annoying as the narrator using an AI voice. Obviously, he watched Darmok. Geordi is here, and now he is gone. Look closely. He sits without moving his chair and puts something in his pocket. Geordi does Picard maneuver number 2, and 1 point lost for Rasmussen calling him Lev.
I have a picture of you wearing that in my office. How do you like it?
Remember, 300 years in the future, if you ever see someone with pockets, you know they are up to something. 1 point lost since Geordi didn't beam down with a staff. 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the turbolift. 1 point lost for Rasmussen on the bridge. He can watch this through one of the observation windows. I hope there weren't any animals in the area. They just phasered right through them. Felton says number 3. 1 point lost for a boom reflection. Deanna is still convinced he is the third baseman. Another point lost for Rasmussen in sickbay. It is an invasion of privacy for the patients. And has anyone ever wondered why sickbay is so small? The Enterprise is massive, but they only have this one room. This is Deanna's way of saying you are a little slime bag. Good for her. I feel sorry for Marina Sirtis. She doesn't get very many lines in the show. Then when she suspects something, they just blow her off, like they forget she is empathic. 1 point lost for Beverly giving him the neural stimulator. She should have let a medical technician explain how it works. While it is okay to say he finds her attractive, he did it in the way creepy old men at Star Trek conventions do. This is Beverly's way of saying they might be related, and that would be weird. But didn't she have sex with a ghost that had sex with all her grandmothers? It happened again. The camera followed an extra. It could be Picard wants to play along with Rasmussen to find out what he is really up to, but they are busy with this mission. Now there are massive earthquakes. Geordi says the narrator was right. That was a stupid thing to do. We should have vaporized glaciers instead, which would have created rain clouds that would have rained the dust back to the ground and cleared up the sky that way. An 8.5 on the Richter scale means the ground they were on was liquefied. That would have leveled cities and caused massive tidal waves. Riker says, "Oh look, this is proof it's our fault. They are all going to die." Geordi says I number 4 and Picard maneuver number 3. Did you ever notice how narrow these hallways can be? 1 point lost for Data's door opening automatically. Instead of him asking Data what an android likes to collect, he just likes putting things in his pockets. But I think Data noticed. 1 point is lost for this fireworks show. The special effects aren't that great. And did they actually poke holes in the entire surface of the planet, or just one side? The next point is lost for this horrifying idea. Planets are huge. The Enterprise would have to be a lightning rod for weeks to absorb all the dust from the atmosphere, and when the possible side effects are ripping the atmosphere off the surface and killing everyone, they should come up with a new plan, like teaching everyone about ice fishing and snowboarding. Another point lost for asking a perfect stranger for his advice. Picard already knows by now that Rasmussen has been stealing things. The whole purpose of him asking for his advice is for this great debate on asking someone from the future about the outcome, which is the whole purpose of the show. And for that, this conversation is a success, except for this point when Rasmussen says, "Hey, isn't Livingston a lionfish, the most invasive species on Earth? And didn't you colonize this planet and totally destroy it? Do you see the similarities there?" Picard says, "No, you are being some woke troublemaker. This planet was hit by an asteroid. And you didn't come to us 2 weeks ago instead and warn us about it, so this is all your fault." And 1 point lost for visible tape on the ground. Rasmussen is thinking, how do I steal this glass ship? The stowaway stays on the bridge just to annoy everybody. Did you notice the guest stars of Trek are like the guest stars of Gilligan's Island? They show up, make some false promises, and then leave. Picard did not study the teachings of Yoda. Data says I number 5. It's time for a pre-planet destruction drink. The Who's have agreed to take the risk. Only about 12 hours have passed, so minus 1 point. They should spend much more time with their planning. Picard is thinking he should do what Batman did. Now he is giving commands. If this really happened, there would be 20 million people on the planet with soiled underwear right now. 1 point lost since this miraculous recovery would never happen so quickly. Geordi and Mosley say, "Damn, you all look so tiny in that ship." Picard says he is tickled pink. Riker does Picard maneuver number 3, then stands right behind Picard like the little ass-kisser that he is. 1 point lost for not checking the security cameras that should be in the shuttle bay, watching him go in and out of it all the time. Picard says, "We think you have been taking things." Rasmussen says, "How did you get here before me?" Riker says they took the shortcut under the furniture. He says he's not in search of relics. Data says that show is next year. Your time machine is faulty. Another point lost for Data going into the time ship. They have no idea if he will come back out. Data confesses he is an atheist. 1 point lost for the magic deactivation beam that aims perfectly into the time ship. The moral of the story here is that if you ever get a time ship, don't program it to automatically take off without you. Of course, he may not know all the workings of the ship. Then he tries one last time with Beverly, who says, "Incredible! Deanna was right about him. She must be empathic or something." Worf says I number 6, thinking maybe he will tell me how my son managed to time travel. Picard is thinking, why is Riker always right behind me? That gives me the creeps. The show ends with a welcome to the 24th century, but this one is in more of an FU tone. Shay Garner was the scientist. Sheila Franklin will be on 4 more times. The late Stefan Girosh has 130 screen credits, including Silver Streak, the 1990 Dark Shadows, and The Incredible Hulk. Favorite shows of the narrator, and Matt Frewer has a whopping 140 screen credits, most notably Max Headroom, Night at the Museum, and Fear the Walking Dead. A Matter of Time, a great episode involving a time-traveling con man and debating the temporal prime directive, gets a score of 79%. Yes! Thank you for getting this far into the video. Please leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, and the subscribe button. Then check out my other videos and playlist, and come back next week for New Ground.